The direct mail, we'll just jump right into that since that's our featured topic today. I made a few notes here, so I'll grab my notes if I can find them. Uh, Direct mail is one of the ways you can get seller leads, right? So we do SMS marketing with text. We do cold calling. You can do different types of scraping on Facebook or Craigslist or various places like that. And then there's also direct mail. So that's actually sending a letter to sellers to ask them if they want to sell their property. And I've done that traditionally with a direct mail company. I think you can do it by yourself, but it would be a lot of work because you'd be, printing out a bunch of letters, folding them, putting in envelopes, putting stamps on them, stuff like that. So I don't think it's that cost effective to do it yourself. I think that the direct mail companies, because they do so much volume, you might as well just go with a company doing it. So I just wrote down a few pros and cons here that I see as far as direct mail. One of the pros is you get leads incoming, right? You pick up the phone and it's a seller on the other end saying, "Hey, I got your letter. I'm thinking about selling. Let's talk." And that's really nice as opposed to cold calling or doing SMS when you get people who are kind of suspicious when they get on the phone with you. There's something I realized as I was making notes about this is that somehow them receiving a letter for you creates a little bit of a feeling of authority. They almost feel like they're dealing with a big company that buys land, and so they have a little bit more respect or a little bit more of a perception of you as an authority when you're sending them a piece of mail. I've had this experience with people, and I didn't really think about it until I was just making notes and stuff of like, wow, this does happen. People call you up and they're kind of waiting for you to lead them through the process, not like on an SMS or a cold call, a little bit suspicious and like kind of jousting with you. So it's an interesting pro of direct mail. The other thing is you get a pretty high lead to conversion rate. Like normally, and I didn't crunch this number, but I can probably post it in the show notes. But generally, for our leads to contracts, it's a better rate than we get from SMS or cold calling. Partly because of that authority, partly because when people are calling you on a direct mail, they're already ready. Like they've taken the initiative to pick up the phone and call the phone number on the phone or even email you, but most of the people call. So they're more motivated and ready to go. And so then your conversion rate tends to be higher on the leads that are coming in from my experience. Uh, Another cool thing that's a pro of direct mail is that sellers hold on to the letters. And we've had people from a campaign that we launched, 1 and even 2 years ago, calling us up and being like, "Hey, I'm ready to sell my property." And we look back at when we sent that letter, and it might have been 1 and even up to 2 years ago, that people just stick the letter in a drawer or a file cabinet because they're old school people who deal with paper. They're not modern 21st century people, and then they pick that letter up and give you a call later on. So it's kind of like delayed marketing is a cool thing about it. And then what else in the pros? Yeah, leads trickle in over time. That's what I wrote down there. So for cons, I would say the upfront cost would be the biggest con for people, especially if you're starting out, because direct mail these days for a letter is I don't think you're going to send a letter for any less than like 80 cents per letter. So, and you have to send, really, you want to send at least a couple thousand to get some results, probably 3 or 4 thousand if possible. If you send 1,000, I shared with Jasper when he interviewed me about my first land campaign. I think I sent like 1,000 my first time, maybe spent like $850 or something. And I did get results. So you can get results on 1,000, but the bigger number you do, the better chance you're going to get results. The law of large numbers. So, even if you're only going to send 1,000 at 80 cents, you're going to spend $800, right? And preferably 3 or 4 thousand is a better sample size. So that's one of the cons, is just its upfront cost is more than if you're going to just get a Mojo dialer and cold call people, or if you're going to get an entry level membership to one of the SMS platforms and text them. That's a lower cost, and obviously you can text and call people without setting up any services at all if you're really starting off. So not to belabor that, but what else did I put for cons? Leads don't come instantly with direct mail. Like you get your list together, you pull your list, you skip trace it, you send it to the list company, and then they process your list. They come back to you. and they get you to approve it. You approve it. You might have to do a proof or two to make sure everything's okay with the way the letter's formatted and all your information in the letter. And then they put that in their queue and they launch it. So it might be from the time you decide to do direct mail and a campaign and pull your list until they launch it. It might be a week or two. And then once they launch, normally it's a week or so until leads start coming in. So you're probably talking between 1 and 3 weeks from the time you start to do a campaign until you get your first leads. And then normally the bulk of the leads I've found come in the first week after you launch it, but then they will trickle in the second week, third week, fourth week, and then it tapers way off. But then, as I said, you can still get occasional leads months or even years down the road. So, but I'd say like, 80-90% of the leads that you're going to get on that campaign are going to come in the first week or two, but it will take you, a couple, 2, 3, 4 weeks before leads start coming in. So if you're like pressed to get leads right away, that's not the ideal. So Jasper, do you have any questions about that so far? I'll let you be the pretend audience. And if you have any questions or anything, let me know. Otherwise I'll keep rolling through.
Yeah, I really like that breakdown. Just a couple questions. Wanted to ask you, like the letter. I mean, I know personally, but just for the audience, do you want to share what letter is working best for you guys right now?
Yeah, that's in my notes. I'll roll through that later, and I think I
Okay.
have the proof pulled up that I can show. I don't have an actual physical letter, but I can think I can show the proof. But that's a great question. So I'll jump into that in a minute.
Okay. And then how many drops are you typically doing to the same list? Like, do you send it 2 times, 3 times? Like, how many times do you remail the same list?
That's a great question too, and I haven't been doing direct mail consistently since 2023. So we're just jumping back in 2025,
Hmm.
and I would have to dig into my data a little bit to see about that, of the list rotation that we we're doing. But I would say twice if I had to guess off the top of my head. We'd just do it twice and then drop it because response rate, I guess that's a con too. Well, it's not necessarily a con because of the conversion rate, but response rate tends to be low on direct mail. And I have
Hmm.
that in my notes too. We'll touch on response rate a little bit more going through this. So yeah, I'd say off the cuff, I'd say run a list twice and then let it go, and then
Okay.
keep going. Yeah. Um, but that remains to be seen. That could be explored more. Like I said, I've got so I just a little background. I started my business in 2020, the tail end of 2020, 2021. I was doing it half time with another business, and I started direct mail that year, and I had really good response. I shared a little bit of that on the interview Jasper did with me too, like the response rate I had. I was doing this solo at the time, so I did direct mail as my only lead source for 2021 and 2022. And in 2021, I closed 15 deals, and in 2022, I closed like 23 deals, and that was all from direct mail. And I could dig more into the numbers and all that stuff, but we're not going to do that here. We're trying to keep this fairly brief. 2023, was the year that I did it for half a year and then dropped it because response rates dropped. So I do have a fair amount of experience with direct mail, but I would say that I think direct mail in 2025 is very different than it was in 2021 or 22. And that's
Hmm.
where I'm going to just share our current campaign, and then I'll be able to share more information because we're going to start rolling out monthly campaigns again this year. Uh,
And then when you're getting the leads from direct mail, are these people calling in and it goes directly to your sales team, or is it going to a voicemail and they're like press a button to speak to someone? Like how does that work when the lead calls in?
that's a great question too, and the we put our lead manager's phone number direct line on the letter. So,
Okay.
and then we also put an email address and a website address that leads to a web form. So I would say 90-95% of the people pick up the phone and call the lead manager. They call the
Okay.
number on the thing. I think a handful of people fill out the web form. We get occasional web form leads forwarded to email, which gets forwarded to the lead manager. Also, like the web form gets forwarded to the lead manager, and then they reach out and call them. But yeah, I'd say 90-95% of it is inbound phone calls.
Nice.
That answer the question?
Yeah.
Okay, that's a great question. Anything else before we do the next layer of this?
I think that's all I had right now. Yeah.
Cool. Thanks. Those are great questions. So then I was just going to go into the numbers of our current campaign because we just launched one in February. So we can just kind of do an in real time uh, direct mail campaign. So this one is a campaign that we did for, we did this for vacant land, and we launched it. Uh, we did it in 2 drops, and this is another logistical thing about mail is depending on the number of pieces you're going to send, you want to manage it so that the lead flow is manageable for your team. So if you're solo or if you have a small team, you want to just think about how many leads are going to be coming in and how you want to split that drop. So for example, in this case, we had 4,500 pieces was this mailer, and we split it into 2 drops of 2250 each, right? And so if you're expecting in ballpark a 1% response rate, then you're getting 22 inbound leads, in that week, right? And so we're thinking of our lead manager who's already fielding 30 to 40 SMS warm leads, and then dropping another 20 on top of that or so. We didn't want to drop 40 or 50 on top of what she was already managing. So that's why we split it into 2 drops. So this dropped February 21st and February 28th. And the leads did come in, sort of the way we expected. And I'll touch on the KPIs in a second. It was 445.03 pieces, 4,503. It cost us $3,742. We had a coupon code because we've been doing mail with this company for a while. So their cost prior to coupon code is 81 cents per mail piece. And to your question earlier, Jasper, the type of mail we were sending is what's called a check letter. And it's the type of letter that you would get in the mail that's sometimes junk mail and sometimes is real, which is why people open it. And it looks like there's a check inside, and there's a little cellophane window with looks like there's a check there. And then you open that up, and the letter says, hey, we're ready to make this a real check. It is an actual, it looks like a check, and it says, we're ready to make this a real check. Give us a call, blah, blah, blah. And I actually pulled up the proof of that, so I can screen share that. But then the other cost to do that list, right? We had to skip trace that, and at 6 cents per skip, which we pay, it was like $270. And then we pulled the list using this service we use for land called Priced for the check letters, because this service called Priced, which we could drop into the tools, is they will generate values for you for campaigns when you're doing like a check letter or a dollar amount offer. So that costs us a little more than our normal pulling. So I think that was ballpark 150. I couldn't get the actual number quickly when I was trying to do all this. But anyway, so our total cost for this campaign is about 4,200 in the ballpark. And then I'll just run down the KPIs from it, and I'll share this, what the letter looks like. We got 44 leads so far, right? This is just the second drop out, 228. So we might get a few more leads trickling in. But 44 leads on 4,500 pieces is roughly that 1% that we were hoping for. So far, we've gotten 5 contracts out of that, and we got one closed at a $9,000 profit. We still have 4 in dispo out of those 5 contracts, and some of those leads were dead because they were landlocked lots. This is vacant land, and then we've got a bunch of leads in follow up. So that ends up at a 1% response rate, roughly a little under 1% so far, but I'm sure we'll get more leads out of it. We've closed one so far. We're already at a 2.16x ROI, or just a little over two times ROI with one closed deal, and still 4 more in dispo, and a bunch of leads in follow up. So that's pretty encouraging so far. And then historically, I just went through my history a little bit, and in our response rate in 2022 was roughly 1.46%. So you can see that 3 years ago it was higher. And in 2021, I didn't have the numbers at my fingertips, but I remember it being 2 to 3% was our response rate. And my rep at the print mail company was blown away that we were getting that kind of response rate, but we were. So it's dropped. And then the contrast there is in 2023, our response rate had dropped to 0.5%. So it went from, let's just say 2.5% to 1.5%, to the next year being 0.5%. So it kept dropping. And that's when we went to SMS full time, and we're just coming back to direct mail. And we don't need to go into whatever, an autopsy of why that dropped, but it did. right now. So anyway, 1% I'm very happy with after, the 0.5% in 2023. And it could be because we switched to the check letter and we were doing a different type of letter previously, which was they called the Jack Bosch white letter, which is a letter that this land guru Jack Bosch created. And it's just really basic. Hey, interested in selling your land, whatever. But it was working for a long time. It was just a white piece of paper and a letter that looked like it was hand addressed with a stamp that looked like it was a real stamp, and people would open it and call. But I think that's changed now. So that's why we're on the check letter. So I'll quickly share my screen, and hopefully we're not running too long on this, but let's see
Oh,
what
this is
this.
great. I love it.
Okay. We'll do a quick screen share and we'll look at the proof that I get from the mail company. So is that popped up, Jasper? Can you see a
Yes.
REI? Okay. All right. So this is what they send us when we've sent them our list and told them we want to place an order. Actually, I have two things here. Let's see if I can pull this other one. Shoot. Okay. Maybe I can't pull that as quickly. Here we go. Can you see this?
Yes.
Okay. This is the order summary from our rep when we first told him we want the order, and then he kind of interfaces with the people at the company. But so we got mailer number 1, mailer number 2, we're splitting this 2,250 pieces roughly. And then he's got, the cost per piece, the total cost per drop. They bill you per drop. Like they'll bill us the 1,800 for the first half. And then when the second half is ready to drop, they'll bill us the other $1,800. They're giving you the type of postage that you paid for, the type of envelope. This is a check letter, so it's no envelope, pressure seal with window, all this stuff. So they give you this prior to the order. This is what, he's confirming everything with us, right? And then we go into the people at the company. Am I sharing this window now with the proof? Okay. So then they'll send us this proof, and this is what the proof looks like. So you can see, let me scroll within this. This is the letter. So, dear Damon Cabbage Stock, my name is Creasa. That's our lead manager with I've Got Hammer Real Estate Investments. I'm writing to you because public records show you as the owner of a 0.11 acre property in Robeson County, and we're interested in purchasing your property from you. Blah blah blah. If you're considering selling your property, we will cover 100% of the closing costs, etc. And then here's what they have a letter reference ID that they can give us. We may be able to get you even more money, but we ask that you call us today. And here's the number. And then there's her email. And I guess we didn't have the web form in this one. We just had her direct email. Sometimes we web form. So there's that. And then here's what they open up and see, right? This is what's in the window. It's, $1,400. It looks like a check, right? And it's got Creasa signing it, and then the date, and then there's the back of the check. And here's the back of the check. This is not a real check, right? And so, but then somewhere it says we're ready to make this a real offer. Oh yeah, it says ready to turn this into a live check. Yeah. For your lot, and then down here it says we may even be able to get you more money, but give us a call, so we can talk. And that's basically it. And so we look at this and we confirm that our phone number and our email are the same. They give you a proof of your list also on this thing. So you got here is the check proof. So you make sure everything looks good to you there. And then here is the master list. And so you can open up, this would be our, our spreadsheet with our master list. And you can double check that and make sure they have it formatted the way you want and that your pricing is in there the way you want it to be. This is just done. But anyway, so we double check the pricing to make sure it's in alignment with what we actually want to be offering people. And the first pass at this list, we were like, oh, priced the service that we pulled our list through, they got it wrong. The prices are all way too low and people are going to get mad. So then we went back and told them, hey, just do 50% of assessed value, please. And so all these offers that went out were 50% of the tax value on these lots. And we got 44 inbound leads from that. So I can tell you that works to some degree, right? And maybe we could try and get granular and do some other percentage. priced that site again has like different dials you can tweak with offer on, you know, comps for asking prices, offer on comps for solds, offer on this or that, what percentage you want to do. We just didn't want to mess with that platform forever trying to get this right. So we're like, just do 50% of assessed value. And it worked. So we might just stick with that for now.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that's just a little brief tour of what that looks like. And then let's see. I think I did all the KPIs on this, right? We ran through all that, the leads and everything we got from the campaign, and then my response rates and all that. So that's basically all the notes I made on this. Does that bring up any other questions for you, Jasper, about the process or any of the facets of it?
Yeah, I love it. I appreciate you doing this breakdown because we're probably going to actually try direct mail pretty soon. So this is very helpful for me too.
Oh,
Uh,
one other thing. I had one other thing I was going to mention. Do you mind, or do you want to go and I'll jump in after?
oh, go ahead.
Okay, just companies. Which company do I use? Right, I forgot to put that on my notes. But like we've used the one you saw is from a company called REI Print Mail, and they're kind of an OG company for direct mail. They've been around for a long time. I learned of them on Steve Treng's podcast, Real Estate Disruptors, where I listened to the founder, and he's very knowledgeable. So I was like, okay, well, I'll go with these guys. And so I did all my direct mail with them in 2021, 22. And I think in 23, I also tried a company called Yellow Letter Shop. And they basically both offer all the same products. Their platforms and their interfaces are a little bit different. I think Yellow Letter Shop, you're dealing more with the actual owner of the company, and he's doing a lot of this stuff himself. Whereas with REI Print Mail, they have quite a big infrastructure, and they have a physical, location, and they have a rep or a concierge that gets assigned to you who's knowledgeable about your region of the country and stuff like that. So if I was going to compare both, I would go with REI Print Mail because I just think they're well established and their service is really good. I don't have anything against Yellow Letter Shop. We got leads from our mailer with them as well. It was just a little bit more maybe inconsistent with the communication and emails, and like I wasn't sure when things were going out and stuff like that. Whereas REI Print Mail just is more on top of it. And like when they send out your mailer, one of the cool things they do is they'll send one to you also, just so you can see that your mailer's gone out. You receive the letter, you open it up and see exactly what it looks like, and then that drop has gone out. So I think that's cool. So that's
Mhm.
all I've got on the companies. I think there are probably many more companies. I know I researched companies at one point, just to compare with REI Print Mail, and Yellow Letter Shop was my second best option from my research, and I did a couple of campaigns with them. I liked them, and I didn't try any others. So that's all I can say about that.
Nice. So is this campaign your first time ever doing this type of letter, the check letter?
No, we've done the check letter previously, but I think we have done one or two campaigns with it. And prior to that, it was always the white mail. So that's why I was saying with like digging into the autopsy of why response rate fell off so far for us in 2023. Like maybe we should have experimented with a few different formats then. But at the time, SMS was crushing it for us. And we were like, why would we spend $4,000 a month on direct mail when we can just double down on SMS? And spending money on testing direct mail, and when the
Yeah.
response rate dropped way off and SMS is crushing, because in 2023, as you know, SMS was crushing. So
Yeah.
like we're getting 15, 17% response rate. And it's like, well, I could spend more money on SMS or I could spend money trying to figure out direct mail. So I chose the former.
Mhm.
So I think that, if I was going to give anybody advice, I would say keep track of what's working in direct mail. And that's the cool thing about REI Print Mail. And I'm not an affiliate. I don't get anything from them, but they do have a concierge. They do have somebody who's on top of what is working in your area and what's trending and stuff like that and what response rates are. So I would say if you're going to do it, just keep on top of what the trends are and what products are working and not working, either through a rep or through your own research. Excuse me.
Yeah, that's a good point. Well, I really like the breakdown. It sounds like amazing numbers to me. I mean, 9 contracts of 3,500 bucks, it's $500 cost per contract. So that's amazing. And even if you only close one, you're already in the green. So that's great. So it sounds very encouraging to me. It sounds like definitely something I would want to try. So
Yeah, and I don't think I shared that. I looked at the ROI for 2022 and 23. I share this, and
no,
I'm roughly at 3 to 4x ROI in those years. So, um, and again, it's not hard numbers, but I just looked at our spreadsheets from those years, and I looked at the overall spend and the overall revenue, and it was roughly, you know, close to
mhm,
4x. So
nice.
that's based on, a year and a half worth of data and consistent campaigns. So that's pretty good information.
Yeah,
But yeah,
awesome.
that's all I've got on that. I think we took a fair amount of time on that. Hopefully it's helpful for anybody who's considering direct mail. And that's our topic of the day. Do you have any last thoughts or questions about that before we move on, Jasper?
No, but I really love that. I think that's going to be super helpful for anyone else who's interested in it. So thank you for breaking everything down. I appreciate it.
Yeah, sure.